I was pretty active in the real estate investment community, going to real estate investment clubs and listening to speakers, and it's much more networked. It was prior to me having the obligation of being a dad, which is taking up a lot of time these days, as I'm sure many parents can relate. But I was out there. I was networking. I was doing things, and so I went to a course or a program where the I guess the speaker, the leader at that point, had this access to a pretty significantly large list of hundreds of properties owned by a hedge fund.
Hmm.
Okay. And this hedge fund, what he did is he went on the road and he started shopping his access to this list, because he basically conveyed to the hedge fund that I could move your inventory,
Okay.
your stressed inventory, right? So he would go to, places where he might be able to get in front of investors
Mhm.
and pitch the idea of offloading some of this portfolio in packages, in smaller packages, right? So he had access to selling the overarching tape. They used to call it a real estate tape of properties. And he could sell them either individually or in small packages or the whole thing,
Right.
right? Well, I had, met this guy before, and, felt like he was pretty credible. And I looked at some of the properties and I got really excited about it, because the majority of these properties I could buy literally at below 30 cents on the dollar. So you could buy sort of stuff that, maybe it was worth 100,000, you buy it for 30,000,
Wow.
right? And you could, with that kind of spread, the mindset for most people is like, hey, if I'm buying something at 30 cents on the dollar, how can I lose?
Right.
Right, right. How can I lose when I'm buying something for a quarter? Yeah, well, I spent a quarter for something that cost a dollar.
Right.
How can I lose? And so literally, I put together an LOI to buy a pretty significant package
Right.
through that tape. And as I started doing the due diligence, I realized that, wait a minute, okay, this $30,000 house right here needs $50,000 worth of work, right? And so now it's $100,000 house. I'm paying 30 to buy it. I'm putting 50 in, right? So now I'm in at 80.
Mhm.
I've got my acquisition costs, I got my holding costs, I got my closing costs, right? So when you combine all those things, now I'm at 95K, and the property's only worth 100K,
Right.
right? So it wasn't a good deal anymore,
Okay.
right? And I found that the majority of those properties in that tape kind of had a similar type of a scenario. Once you did the rehab, now some of them required less work, but they were disparate. They were all over the
Yeah.
place. So they were in Indiana, they were in the South, they were in Chicago, so you'd have to have some sort of infrastructure or some sort of boots on the ground in those respective areas to help you, complete those projects. And so you start looking at it and you say, "Yeah, even though I can buy these things at a discount,
Mhm.
when it's all said and done, it's probably not as good of a deal as it appears to be
Yeah.
on the front end."